Hello everybody, how's it going? Like Butter here, and today I'm going to be breaking down the 1.6 patch notes that just came out on the division.ub.com website. It's also posted on Reddit, and it's even on your Uplay if you play on PC. But I want to break down the 1.6 update because I think there's a lot of stuff in the patch notes that are a little bit hard to understand, but since I played the patch, I can explain it to you guys like in detail, and this video will probably answer 99% of the questions that you guys have for the update. So I have a link in the description. Be sure to click that so you can go along with me. I have some gameplay up on screen as well. If you just want to listen to me, that's totally fine too. So you find on the page, it says update 1.6 in detail. Now, it first talks about 1.6 is going to be releasing the same exact time as Last Stand. 1.6 is going to have like the Dark Zone and all those other things, whereas like, Last Stand is just the game mode, the PvP 8v8 objective-based game mode, and then also the incursion that hasn't been announced or shown yet. This is the same for PS4 players as well. There's no more timed exclusive where PS4 gets like DLC a month late. Everyone is getting it on the same time. There is no date yet. Usually there has to be a couple weeks of PTS for the developers to figure out, when the date's going to be, depending on how well things go. So it says here that there will not be a new world tier for this patch, so you guys don't have to worry about the gear score increasing. A lot of people had questions about that, so I think the reason being because they wanted everyone to kind of be min-max for this patch, because not only are there going to be like PvP modes, there's also going to be like an expansion in the DZ, and also the new legendary mode, which we'll get to a little bit later. So here it says the Northern Front. Basically what it's talking about is DZ North, which is Dark Zone 7, 8, and 9, which is going to extend the top of the Dark Zone and then up to the right. They're actually almost doubling the playable area as the original Dark Zone. Now, when you see it on the map, it doesn't look like double the space, but the 7, 8, 9 Dark Zones have much more verticality than the 1 through 6 do. If you guys go and run around 1 through 6 Dark Zone, you notice that everything's kind of just flat, and there's some buildings you can go into. In DZ 7 and 9, it's almost like every building is like enterable at some point. And there's just rooftops and undergrounds, and it feels very compact. Like, you don't ever have those moments where you're running like for 5 minutes just to try to find somebody. So Dark Zone 789 will be available completely free with the 1.6 update. The Dark Zone 7 through 9 was really fun. There's also respawn landmarks, which means like when you clear a landmark, they'll immediately respawn again, and you also get rewards for clearing landmarks now. So it gives people more incentive to finish off the landmark instead of killing the boss and then kind of just running away and leaving the landmark up. You can now fast travel between Dark Zone checkpoints, which you could already do, but you would have to go out to the Light Zone, fast travel to another Dark Zone checkpoint. Now you can fast travel from within the Dark Zone checkpoints, so this is good for people who want to find players or people who want to get away from groups of rogues. Contamination events are also a new activity to do in the Dark Zone. They're much like the supply drops, but instead it's going to go off. There's going to be a timer in the top right hand corner of your screen. It's going to let you know that their contaminated events are going off, and then certain underground areas on the map are going to become lethal where you can't even go under there without dying. So the idea is you have to go underground, you start losing health pretty drastically, and you need to manage your health as much as you can so you can kill the heavy cleaners that are deep in the underground. I really hope they make some changes to these contaminated events because I think they're a really good idea, but I'd much rather see the bleed effect much slower, kind of like it is in the underground when you use the 5th directive. I think it's called Sickness. I would much rather see it be slow like that and then have like a lot of cleaners underground, not just because right now how it is you go underground, you start dying, and then really deep in the underground, you'll see two heavy cleaners just standing there. Like, I think it's such a good idea, but it definitely, at least in the version that I played at the ETF, definitely wasn't, executed properly. Like I said, I'd much rather see like tons of cleaners under there that you have to clear out and have that slow bleed effect. even if it's easier, you do have to realize that you're going to be blinking on the map, and it's going to provoke other groups to go down there as well. And I just picture these crazy gunfights in the underground where you have to not only worry about cleaners, but you have to worry about other groups while managing your health. I think that's going to be a really cool thing. I really hope they make that adjustment, or maybe if they've made some adjustments since the ETF, but these events definitely didn't reach their full potential when I tried them. They're also going to be adding Dark Zone leaderboards, which they're going to be having things for, like, you know, how many items you extract, so on and so forth. So it's going to give Dark Zone players a little bit more to go for just than loot. There will be weekly awards based on how well you did on the leaderboards and so on and so forth. So I think that'll be pretty cool for people to go for. And the next thing here on the list is the legendary difficulty, which I want to talk about because we actually got to try the legendary difficulty. It's going to take place on 3 maps: Times Square, Warren Gate Power Plant, and Napalm Production Site. Now, we played Napalm Production Site, and we got absolutely slaughtered over and over again. Now, the description that I used on Twitter, I think, is pretty accurate. It feels like the 1.3 NPCs, you know, the really tanky, bullet spongy NPCs, but with Hunter AI. Like, this mode is so difficult, and you have to have a coordinated team, and you have to work together, and you have to have a decent team composition in order to clear this difficulty. And I think it's going to be really fun. I really hope they don't nerf the NPCs, because this is going to be like the only content in the game that's super difficult. Like, even the incursions now, you can pretty much just run through it. Even just a group of 3 of Alpha Bridge, everyone can just kind of mow over. And I rather see more difficult content. I know there's a lot of people who miss those 1.3 NPCs, those NPCs being super strong, because, you know, with the way that it's balanced now, I like it more, but there needs to be more challenging endgame content. So these legendary missions are going to grant you an exotic cache once a week. So if there's 3 missions, you can do it once a week on each mission. And then also, if you have other characters, you can do it as well. So you can essentially get up to 12 exotic caches a week. Now, if you don't know what exotics are, named weapons and named gear are actually getting changed to exotics. They have a different color now. When you get a drop, it's going to be a red beam going up to the sky. It's no longer yellow, just like the high ends. And this is going to be like a new level of rarity. They also revamped like all the named weapons. All the named weapons have their own talent now. It's going to bring a whole new level of farming to the game, because with a lot of the changes to the exotic weapons, it's going to make them more fun, and there's going to be so many builds that you can build off of those. I really can't wait. But back to the legendary difficulty, I'm telling you guys, this is crazy. Like, to see all these NPCs, and if you don't know, it's a new faction technically. It's the LMB3, which are like these really scary versions of the Last Man Battalion. They have like red eyes, and they have super awesome armor and stuff, and you're gonna get cool cosmetic items also for beating these missions as well. So I think that there's going to be a lot to do in this patch. A lot of people think just because they're min-max that they're not going to have anything to do. Well, these activities are specifically made for min-max players, and I promise, even if you are min-max, you're going to have a lot of issues with this difficulty, and I'm really excited for it, and I think you guys are going to like it as well. I think we can all agree that the Hunter AI was the best PvE difficulty we've ever seen in AI in this game. It's so much better to have these NPCs moving like actual players rather than having it how it was back in 1.3, where people are just standing still, bullet sponging, and acting really stupid. So you're going to definitely have to manage your health. You're going to have to use strategy, different skills, and this difficulty is going to be very hard to beat, and I can't wait to see some of the reactions of you guys when you first get a chance to play it on the PTS. So there's also been a lot of changes to gear sets. I think it's pretty obvious that Alpha Bridge was going to get nerfed. The 4-piece bonus no longer gives you 6 talents. Instead, it gives you 4. And basically what it'll do is it'll give you the 3 talents on the gun that you're using, and then the bonus talent on the gun that you're not. So the cool thing about this is that you actually don't need the requirements to unlock those talents. So for example, on one gun, you could have 2 talents that require electronics in the first 2 slots, and it will automatically unlock it. So you could have like adept and competent in the first 2 slots of your weapon, and then maybe like, you know, you have like brutal or something in the 3rd slot, and then you got something else on your 4th weapon. I think that's really cool because, you know, it's not going to give you the chance to have like 6 talents and make it just completely overpowered, but it's also going to open up more opportunities for different builds that you can do. So I think we can agree that this is a pretty hefty Alpha Bridge nerf, and also Uncomplicated can no longer be used with Alpha Bridge, considering the FAMAS is becoming an exotic weapon this patch as well, and exotic weapons can't be used with Alpha Bridge. So Alpha Bridge got a pretty big nerf. Frontline also got a small bit of a nerf. It doesn't really specify here in the article, but they wanted to keep it viable, but also it was just way too strong in PvE. Pretty much you would just sit there and hold a shield and you would just get pummeled by the entire server of NPCs, and you just wouldn't, it wouldn't matter. You would just be able to tank it all. So I think they made some small tweaks to that, and Reclaimer got a massive buff. Reclaimer, actually, a lot of people thought that the consumables thing was super strong. It's not. It's garbage. The consumables was kind of bad, but this new 4-piece bonus, I'm telling you guys, it's unbelievably strong. Basically, your healing station gives you all 3 bonuses, which means you get the stats from all 3 modifications of the healing station. You're going to get immunizer, life support, and ammo cache all at the same time, and those stats that come with it. So I think you get something like cooldown reduction when you're in there and stuff. It's very, very good. I've actually been collecting Reclaimer pieces myself because I'm going to combo it with a Caduceus, which with a Caduceus, you actually heal your entire team every time you crit. So I'm going to do a crit chance like Caduceus build with the new Reclaimer set so that I can just be healing my team the entire time. Not only when I'm healing them with the immunizer and stuff, but also when I'm shooting NPCs or players and stuff like that. It'll be cool to actually have a support role be viable with the way, things are going to be changing with skill power and whatnot. So, yeah, I think Reclaimer is definitely going to be something you guys want to grab if you want to be a skill power player for your team. Like I said, you guys have no clue how strong the 4-piece is. I guess you'll just have to wait and see. Like, when I first heard it, oh, you get all 3 mods, that's not that good. But when you see the stats that come with all 3 mods, you're going to notice that there's going to be a huge difference here. Also, there's a new gear set called Seeker. This is a very good gear set for SMGs. If you're an SMG user, most of you guys know that the SMGs have such poor recoil and accuracy that it's kind of hard to hit consistent headshots. So usually what you want to do is just go for body shots. Well, this gear set is going to give you bonuses in the body, so it's going to give you increased body shots. I think the version that I played at the ETF, like the 2-piece and the 3-piece, where one was body damage and one was critical hit damage, which I think one of those are going to get changed, and then the 4-piece was every 3rd body shot is an automatic crit. So technically you could run a build where you have no crit chance at all and still get 33% crit chance. You'll crit on every 3rd shot. So I think I'm going to be running this with my Tommy gun. I think this is going to be super good because with the Tommy gun, when you're hip firing, you're just aiming for the body anyways. So I think this is going to be a really good set for the Tommy gun. And also the 2 new exotic named weapons that I don't think I've seen in here. There's basically exotic gear weapons now. I hope that was covered in this article, but there's 2 Valkyries. One's like the Eker and the Ire or something like that. Some weird names, but they go hand in hand. So if you use them together, you get an extra bonus. And I think it was something like if you shoot somebody with one SMG, that crit damage gets put to your next clip on your other weapon or something. I don't remember how it worked, but basically you would shoot somebody with one of them, switch to the other, and then I think it was called Twin Valkyries or something like that, which was the bonus that you got for using the 2 weapons together. So I think they're gonna start incorporating set weapons, so it's like a gear set but for weapons. It's hard to explain, but I think you guys will understand once it's shown. But yeah, that set was deadly with that. So I think you're going to see SMGs used a lot more this patch, especially with the changes to armor and resistances. Now, if you guys didn't know, a lot of things have made the PvP in this game very inconsistent thanks to stacking resistances and the fact that armor is a must-have on all your gear. Armor is being removed as a major stat. You can no longer roll armor on your gear or your mods. So armor is completely gone except for the base armor that you're going to roll on your gear. So those base armors that you get on pieces that drop are going to be a lot more important now than they used to be, because that's the only way to get your mitigation. So what they're doing is they're putting health in for armor. It was large amounts of health. It was like something like, I think on the chest piece you could get like 20,000 health or something. And I think they're going to be nerfing that because we found that, you know, in the version that we played, building health was almost as strong as it was for building armor. But health doesn't scale as strong like as armor does. Like armor gets stronger the more you build because of how mitigation works. And this one actually doesn't do that because like health scales more linearly. So I think that's going to be a lot easier for them to control that. And they also nerf the shit out of the talents like on the move, critical save, and battle buddy. All those have like been cut in half, I believe, as well. So you're not going to have as much mitigation as you used to have. You're not going to be able to tank bullets. You're not going to be able to face tank. You're not going to be able to run directly into a team that's sitting behind cover and expect to live. Like you're going to get put down. And I'm really excited for the future of the PvP because I think the PvP overhaul that we're getting with this patch is going to make it a lot better. You're not going to see the 3-foot hip firing circle jerks anymore that you see now in all the all the fights because of how out of control the resistances would get. So if you used to have health on your gear, that's going to be replaced with resist all, which what resist all is going to be is basically just you're going to resist a percentage of all of the status effects. And status effects, that's another thing that's getting changed. You can actually pop a medkit now to remove status effects, so you can choose whether you want to remove the status effect and get a heal, or if you're trying to get away and you want to finish somebody off and you're full health and someone procs a bleed on you or something, you can actually use a medkit even though you're full health to remove the status effect from you. So you kind of have to choose between, you know, do you want to use the medkit for a heal or do you want to use it to remove the status effect? Also, resistances are getting a change as well. So if you have 50% shock resistance, what used to happen is you would have basically a 50% chance of not getting shocked. So a shock turret would go off, boom, and you would either get shocked or you wouldn't. There was like a 50-50 chance. Now what it's going to do is it's going to shock you every time, but the amount of resistance that you have is going to reduce the time that you are stunned for. So for example, if you have 50% shock resist and when you get shocked it's like what, a second and a half, then you're only going to be shocked for 3/4 of a second. That type of thing, where it's like if you invest a lot in these resistances, you're going to actually technically, if you had 100% shock resist, then a shock grenade or a shock turret could technically never ever shock you. So I think that's going to be really good, and not to mention also with the med kits, it's going to come down to more gun skill rather than the the huge dominating crowd control that you're seeing in the Dark Zone now, where everyone is kind of depending on someone to get shocked in order to put them down. With the lower resistances and like the armor being like completely reduced, you're going to see that a lot less, I promise. Also, bleed got changed. It doesn't sprint lock you anymore. You can still sprint when you're bleeding, but it lowers your movement speed by like 10% or something. So if you proc bleed on somebody, it will slow them. Their movement will be slower, but it's not so annoying that they have to, continuously roll over and over and over again. Which brings me to my next change. Rolls now actually have a cooldown. So when you roll, you combat roll, there's an entire second before you can roll again. And I saw some people were like, oh, a second's not that long. Trust me, it feels like a freaking millennium because there used to not be any cooldown, so you could just spam it over and over. Now, just trust me, 1 second is insanely long, and I think that's a pretty good place for it to go. They also changed the amount of time that it takes to revive someone. It's like 3.5 seconds now instead of it being like 2 seconds, and there's just so many things changing. Skill power scaling is different now. It scales more of how like health does, where it starts at a lower, like for some reason, like your skill power always started way too high, and then it would scale, and they had to add like not diminishing returns. Basically what used to happen is the skill power would start really high, and then so they had to make it so that like the more skill power that you got, the worse that your skills were. But now that the skill power is starting at a lower amount, they can actually, not put a cap on it like they had before. So it's just going to scale linearly now. So the more skill power that you put into your build, the more effective your skills are going to be, and you're going to really feel that effectiveness. Another thing to note is that now that you have more health, like more of your health pool is dependent on the health that you have and not the armor that you have, you're going to stop seeing like the one-shot Seeker builds and shit like that, because you got to remember, before the Seekers, they would just basically ignore your armor, right? Armor is bullet damage, and then they would blow you up. So if you had like, 200,000 health and the Seeker did like, 400k because someone did a skill power build, it would kill you like every single time. Now it's going to be much harder. You're going to have time to react, and not to mention, with the med kits, removing status effects, it's going to be much more dependent on gunplay and a lot less on cheesy skills. Diminishing returns have also been added to status effects, which basically means if you get shocked, you're not going to be able to get shocked again for a certain amount of time. Like basically how it works is like, you can't continuously get caught on fire. Like I've seen that happen sometimes with flame turrets, and it's the most frustrating thing. Like you get caught on fire, you remove that fire status effect, and then you get caught on fire again. Like it's not going to work like that. There's going to be diminishing returns on status effects now, which is once again going to really help the PvP experience. So skills also got like a lot of changes. I'll let you guys read through that if you want to read it in more detail. But there was also a lot of changes to things like hip fire. Now when you hip fire, like your camera kind of goes behind your character a little bit and makes it so that you can see not as good. I still found hip fire being like really like, helpful when I was playing in the build down at Red Storm. It was still really good. So I don't think if you're a big hip fire player, I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. But they're just trying to keep people from running up and hip firing, and now you won't have as much visibility as you used to. Also, they're doing things like economy changes and stuff like that. But what I want to talk about, which I think is super cool, and I think the community is kind of dealing with it really well, is that they're going to be adding microtransactions for things like emotes and weapon skins and other vanity items. And I can honestly say I used the emotes at the Elite Task Force, and I can say it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen added in the Division. There was so many funny emotes that, like, if somebody just did a certain emote on me, I just wouldn't even get mad. Like, how do you even get mad at that? You could do like backflips, you can do a pretend teabag where your guy like kneels over and pretends to be holding like an imaginary bag with a cup, and he's just like teabagging it. So it's like, oh my god, there's a drop the mic one where your character just stands straight, holds out a microphone, and then just drops it. Like, the amount of awesome emotes are just, you guys are gonna have to wait and see. I'm hoping that they're available in the PTS so I can make a video about them and show them all off to you guys. But yeah, this is actually really good for the game. I know people are, oh my god, microtransactions, blah, blah, blah. But microtransactions are going to allow, hopefully, if we do have year 2 content, if the microtransactions go well enough, I would hope that the DLC is going to be free, because if you've noticed, every single patch they've been putting more and more and more stuff to be free. And I think they want to go the same route that like Siege went, where you have the option to do microtransactions if you want, but they don't affect the game in any way, shape, or form. That way, those people who are in a position who have money that they want to spend on the game can support it, and then people don't need to buy the DLC. But that's totally up in there. I'm not sure if that will ever happen, but it'd be cool. And I think overall, it's just better to make sure that this game is getting like supported, because as it stands, the game's like $20 and they give you so much content that you never have to buy the DLC. Like, how are they going to make their money, And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh my god, microtransactions, but I think it's better for the game, and I think it's going to be awesome. And I'm going to be trying as hard as I can to get some of those hilarious emotes that I'm going to spam on dead corpses and just get the salt out of there. But no, honestly, like the emotes, like I think the reason like the clapping emote is so frustrating is because it clearly wasn't meant to be BM, but people made it into BM, which made it like really annoying. But now these emotes are so obviously made for BM that you can't even get mad. But yeah, so that's most of the changes. They're also working on a solo survival queue, which I'm super excited for. But if you guys want to read the rest, if I missed anything, be sure to leave it in the comment section below. I basically just scrolled through this as much as I could because I wanted to get you guys the key points. And considering I played the patch, I definitely wanted to clear up some things for you. So thank you so much for watching this video, guys. If you enjoyed, be sure to drop the video a like, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care, everybody.